welcome to All Stars. It's Sal and Josh. We're back, baby.
We did it. Dude, it's so funny. I remember like the whole last month we've been like, oh, we'll record next week. We'll do 2.
Oh my God.
I just in this exact moment realized it's been a month. Like,
yes.
I did not. I was like, we're gonna do 2 in May.
We did the live show, which by the way, if you haven't checked out, folks, you should definitely
you should watch
the live
it. Yeah,
show.
It's great. Jeremy,
a cavalcade of comic book creators and fun. I think Chip gets the biggest laugh of the hour because of
because what happened? No, we're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, Chip is hilarious. I think we'll do that again sometime, and we'll have a whole different set of creators come in.
I love that.
Maybe all of them too. I mean, because there was some creators that we had talked to who couldn't make it because of like life stuff. So what I mean by life stuff, I mean like going to the dentist.
Dentist appointments. Yeah,
which is the real reason why somebody didn't make it. But we will. Those people, I still text with them, and they were aware of it, and they were like, "Damn it, I wish I could have made it." So yeah, that is something we will definitely do again, probably sooner than anything. I think we'll maybe try it again this summer.
Nice. Well, because when we did that, we did the show, and I was like, "That was great." I'm like, "I think that's the one for the month," and you're like, "No way." I'm like, "No, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna do another one." And I
wanted to do it like a week later.
I think you did, yeah. And I was like, "All right." I mean, I
texted you. You and I were texting about it, and it was like, I remember one point you were like, it was a day I was not feeling good. Plus, I had like crazy like deadline stuff, and you were like, "You ready to record in an hour?" Yeah.
You're like, "Nope."
And I was like dying, and I'm like,
"Yeah,
what am I doing?"
Yep.
Like,
so,
but anyway.
I'm glad you're in better spirits. You're ready for the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I see.
Yes, I'm very excited. I know nothing about it. I'm trying to avoid stuff. I'm trying to avoid trailers.
Same.
I actually got a Deadpool toy that came in the mail like 15 minutes ago. I haven't looked at it yet. It's the movie one. It's the movie one.
Oh, cool. Have you seen the popcorn bucket?
I have. No, here's my question about the popcorn bucket. Is it only the one? There isn't 2? I know.
I think it's just Wolverine. I thought it was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. But
yeah, I know that Boss Logic did a Deadpool one and a Wolverine one as a like, he does that. He like makes his version of things that people are talking about.
Yep.
Like a while ago, and people thought that was it. They thought that was real.
Yep.
So, but he was surprisingly close.
He was close because that Wolverine one, somehow the real one is more gross.
Oh, dude, it's so funny. I wonder what the Deadpool one is, because here's the thing. This is my the Deadpool one is, if there is one, where is the hole? Because so here is my pure guess, and maybe this is not it. It would be funny if the hole is in his head and it's a bullet hole or something. Like he gets shot out or something. You have to dip into his head and it's like bloody.
Yeah.
Around the edges, or in the back, it's like a big. You know what I mean? Like that's something that, like, but it's bloody. And maybe they were like, "What are we doing? We're not releasing a bloody head as a popcorn bucket." That would be my guess, because it is weird that it's only the Wolverine one. But I do feel like with everything, well, here's the thing: everything we've seen, I feel like there's some kind of joke we're not aware of yet. Like,
oh, totally.
You know what I mean? So it's like there must be some Deadpool thing, whatever. But yeah, I've actively. I even saw there was like a PSA about not talking to theaters. I was like, I'm not.
I saw it. I saw Furiosa, and they were all red band trailers before it, and of course, one of them was Deadpool. But then at the end of it, they did a Deadpool PSA for talking in the theater, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, it's funny. Did you like Furiosa?
Loved it. Yeah.
Oh, great. I haven't seen it yet. It came out when I was in California, and I was like, I'm not gonna.
It's fire, man.
Is it really? Okay.
It's good. It's it's not as epic as Fury Road, because like it's a preview, like it's a prequel,
a prelude,
but like
prequel. You're right.
But it's awesome. But it's dope. And Chris Hemsworth is hilarious. He plays like that like 80s era Australian guy. I mean, he is Australian, but the kind like that, like all Aussies sounded like this back in like the 80s, and all the movies were like, they all had really high pitched voices, and like it's amazing.
That's funny. I remember the first time I saw the trailer, the very first trailer, at the end of the trailer, he says that line of like, "But can you make it epic?"
Oh,
and I felt that in my chest. Like, I remember talking to Tinian about it, and I sent him a video, and I was like, bro, that is like the quote for me, because we were you're talking about all these projects and stuff, and it was like, it's that thing where now everybody pitches me anything, I'm just like, but can you make it epic?
Yes. And let me tell you something, they do. Like, they in the context of this question, they do, and it's a moment where my wife, who didn't really want to go, she didn't see Fury Road in the theater, but ended up enjoying it. But she's sitting next to me. She's the horror person. She's the kind of like epic person. Like she knows that shit. But like when that happened, she was like,
"That's awesome,
bravo, you got me."
I gotta go. Maybe I'll sneak off this week or something. I don't know, maybe next week. But there was cool. I remember when I went and saw Fury Road. My buddy and I went and saw it, and we sat pretty. We had good seats, but it was like, I don't know. It was still at that moment where like not everything was assigned seating, you know?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
And we're in this theater. It was packed, and the moment that movie ended, a guy in the very back just went, "Fuck yeah!" And the room erupted. I mean, It was like had the right timing, the right moment. Normally, I don't like people talking in the theater, but that day was fuck yeah, and everybody just like exploded. I mean, everybody was like, ah. And then I took my wife like the next day. I was like, we have to see this. You have to see this. We went and saw it. I mean, that's always fun. You're like, I have to see it again. Like I remember when X-Men came out. One of these days, I want you and I to sit down and talk about, like, we'll do one of these videos and talk about every single comic book movie.
My God, could we?
Talk about, or not even as comic movies, let's talk about superhero movies. Let's talk about, like, Meteor Man. Like, let's just go.
Meteor Man! I saw that in theaters because I thought it was a superhero movie. Like, my dad took me to see it. It was me, my dad, and people who didn't look like me.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about. We should see that, like, that, Blank Man. We'll get into it. But, like, Steel, I saw Steel in the theater. So it's like, let's get into it, you know. But so when we saw X-Men, I was in an apartment with a bunch of roommates, and when we saw X-Men, I'm trying to remember what happened. I think we went and we saw it at like a midnight showing. No, I don't think that's right. Okay, so I'm trying to remember my memory with this. I think we saw it on like a Thursday night, but for whatever reason, the theater showed it at like 7 or something, like early.
Yeah.
And so we saw it, and a bunch of us went and saw it, and we came home, and we're just like, this movie's amazing. We're about it. And there was one of our roommates had just got back into town, so he didn't come with us. He literally like got to the house the same time we got there to the apartment.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to know anything. All I want to know is one thing: is how is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? Oh. I don't want to know anything else. I remember none of us knew who Hugh Jackman was.
Right.
So we're just like, all I want to know is how is Wolverine? This is all I care about. How is Wolverine? And my buddy and I were just like, man, we don't want to ruin it for you, but he's great. We had this whole thing we're explaining to him, and we're like, this is how long ago this was, and how much of like this I can give you a set piece of broke early 20s living. We were all a bunch of us were in a room with like mattresses on the ground, kind of thing, you know.
Yep.
So we're all in there. We're all just like on our beds. Like we had 3 mattresses on the ground. We're just like talking about the X-Men movie. And me and my buddy are telling him like all this stuff, but we're trying really hard. And then we're like, what time is it? We're like, it's 11. There's a midnight show. Right now. So I saw it twice in the same night. I think that's
nice.
Yes, we went and saw it at midnight. We ran to the midnight show. I was like, dude, we can't talk to you about this. You have to just see it. And then he was like, I mean, the moment the movie opens, it was just oh, dude, I'm here. Like it was like, this is it. And that's the thing with I mean, dude, we could talk about X-Men 97. You and I haven't talked about it.
Oh my God, that's right.
You and I haven't talked about it at all. I think last time I was like, I'm not caught up.
Yes, that's right.
Like,
you are now.
I'm totally caught up now. Yeah, I watched it all. I watched it on I watched some of it on an airplane.
Yep.
Got here, watched it here, you know, at the house and stuff. I watched the last episode with my wife, who was like super into it. She was like, I have no idea what's happening in this. At one point, okay, spoilers to anyone who hasn't watched X-Men 97. Okay. At one point, she was watching the last episode with me, and then she was just like, what? They killed Gambit? What the fuck? Like, why did they kill Gambit? And I'm like, you don't even know. You don't even know. Because I knew Gambit died.
Yeah.
So that got spoiled for me. Gambit dying, because it was one of those things where you see like an image of something, like 2 things.
Oh, I know. Oh, like fan art, just like RIP, or just Gambit art suddenly is everywhere.
Gambit,
I'm like,
once Gambit art's out there, I was like, fuck you guys. Like, no, here's the 2 things that got ruined for me that didn't piss me off. But the 2 things that got ruined for me is Gambit dying. So we'll start there. Gambit dying. So when Gambit dies, I was like, so that whole thing. So I knew Gambit was going to die. I did not know it was going to be this Genosha attack. Man, they killed fucking Dazzler, man. Like, they
did. What the hell? Yeah, they killed everybody.
They killed Callisto. They were just like killing. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, they're going for it. Holy crap, they're going for it. Actually, I have a question for you about something you had at one point. So they went for it, right? The second thing, so I was like, okay, I knew about Gambit, and that was such an amazing scene. His death is so good.
Yes.
So good. But that entire episode is nuts. That is so much information in one episode. So much happens in that one episode.
That's what the show does. Yeah.
That is holy crap. So then the second thing that got ruined for me, and this is something that I think only I care about, like just me, was Bastion.
Oh.
Because I loved that story.
Like, oh, you loved OZT?
Dude, I am the one person who liked Operation Zero Tolerance. It is just me.
So yeah, it is. So because I remember
so Culver and I, because Culver is a much more knowledgeable about X-Men than I am. I know X-Men, but I can't it's funny. I can't go hard on X-Men. Right?
Same, yeah.
I think I told you this story before, but one time I was at a bar. I had met Brubaker that weekend, and I'm in a bar, and we started talking about X-Men, and there was some kind of comment about X-Men. I was like, oh, I know X-Men really well, and he was like, name this character's first appearance, and I couldn't, and he fucking knew it, and he was like, how dare you say you like the X-Men? And I was like, well, I mean, I know Gambits, I know Bishops. I'm sorry, I forgot this one random character. It was funny. It was very funny. But he knew it. But also, I'm like, bro, you're writing on Kenny X-Men right now.
Yeah, you should know it. If anybody here is going to know it, it's you.
Yeah, but it's funny. It is that thing where you realize there are some people who really know something. Like X-Men is one I have read. I read X-Men for years, right? So it's like I know X-Men fairly well. But Zero Tolerance is one that I liked. And I was actually talking about Bastion maybe to Culver 5 months ago, and I was talking about him, and I was like, I think he's a very interesting villain, and I don't want to get too deep into it because it's actually an idea I had, and I was like, I was telling him this idea I had, and I was like, oh, well, it's actually kind of similar to this Bastion thing, and I was explaining it to him, and we were talking about Bastion, and I was like, I actually really like that arc. I thought it was really interesting, and I felt like it was a cool X-Men story, and I really liked it, and that it has never gone anywhere. It's never picked up, and Bastion hasn't been used in a major way since that story.
True. Yeah.
And so when it became very obvious, so when I saw fan art of Bastion, I was like, what? Wait. And Dennis asked me, he was like, do you know? So after I saw the spoilerly art, Dennis was much more caught up than I was. He was like, do you know what the big bad is of the show yet? And I'm like, I think I do. I don't want to talk about it. And he was like, yeah, the moment it happened and he knew it was Bastion, he was like, I immediately thought of you.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you were the one person who likes this character. You're the one person that's going to be like, yeah. And
they did him right, though. They did him great. That's the best version of Bastion, I think. Was
and the fact that they cartoon. So many. It's crazy how they told it out of order.
Yeah.
Right? And made it work.
Yes.
So well. And then making Bastion a sympathetic, really cool villain that was scary and dangerous, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, and the performance was stellar. The voice for Bastion, I'm like, I would never have picked it, and I love it. I'm like, that is so.
Wait, who was it? I actually don't know. Who was it?
I don't know him very well. He's not he's not like a big voice actor. He's more like a live action actor.
But he has that ability. Oh, okay, yeah.
He just nailed it. I just loved how he performed it. I was like, this is so cool. There's so much of that. And then all the post credits for the last episode, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I was the same. I was like, and then I was like, you mean I gotta wait 2 years?
Oh yeah, no, there's no way it's not gonna take more than less than 2 years.
People complain about comic books. We come out monthly, goddammit.
Damn right, yeah, and it's gonna look is at least as epic as anything you saw on that show.
Some of us are late. Sometimes there's time.
Okay, so you'll be a little longer, but
a little bit longer. But we try.
Yeah. No, the House of Brainiac descending of the army of Lobos was friggin' just as epic as any other sequence in the X-Men cartoon, and you can look at it for as long as you want. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I'm really happy with House of Brainiac, and I'm glad that it's funny. I think I told this before, and I've said this before in interviews where I'm like, people call it an event, and I'm like, it's not an event, it's a crossover.
Yeah,
I feel like let me tell you, I've got some events. So I'm like, math to events.
Yes.
And the size of things, and so I was like, with this, I'm like, this is not that kind of story. It's interesting because it's a story that could have just taken place in Superman, but because of things that were going on, it was going to be in both Superman and Action, and then I was happy with that because it does elevate it, and it crossover does elevate it. But also I was like, this is great because I have these. It was interesting because I was trying to figure out the math of like, okay, well, the Superman book will star mostly Superman and Lobo, like most of the scenes are there, but every time it's an Action issue, because I was really conscious of the fact that there are people who read Action for Supergirl, who read Action for Connor, so I'm like, okay with that. But I think now it's interesting to look back at and be like, how much that story is going to play a major part in the summer, but then also what's going on in Superman after, without getting into spoilers, because the ending has like 3 pretty big things that happen in the last issue that will impact stuff. Like it's an impactful moment, and then that leads into obviously with Absolute Power, and then it's stuff that happens after that, and there's things that will happen in the fall, and it's stuff that was built in from the beginning. But yeah, I'm really excited about people get to the ending. I'm really curious how people are going to feel about the end, because it's like it's weird because it's not a big event, it's a crossover, but it has an ending, but then there's like 3 major pieces of the ending that then will carry forward, Gotcha. So I'm really happy with it. And Rafa kills it. Like every page, Rafa was just like, I'm gonna go nuts on this page every time, and he just really nailed it. I loved working on that one. It's fun.
No, Rafa's work is amazing. People should be talking about that. Like I think DC's got some of the best artists right now working. It's just crushing it.
I agree.
So many good things.
I look at Dan Mora, I look at Jorge.
Samper.
Yeah, like all these guys that I'm like, they're really amazing. And then it's like, you look at it's an interesting moment with a lot of these guys. What's funny is a lot of them.
I was gonna say Sean Isaacs on Green Arrow.
Yeah, man.
So great.
I love working with Sean. I feel like Sean and Rafa and Danny, I've only worked with Bruno
Redondo. Yes.
Yeah, I worked with him twice. Once was like 15 years ago or something like that. We did it together and we forgot that we worked together. Wow. And then it came up like a couple years ago, and we were just like, it was his first work. It was one of my like earlier works, but it was his first work at DC. But it's funny, all those guys know each other. That's also what's kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Like, guys know each other. Yeah, Jorge, Danny, Bruno, all those guys know each other. Rafa, they all know each other. So it's kind of fun also to see them like ascend at the same time. Like they all know each other and they support each other and communicate, talk. It's like I was emailing with Danny this morning a little bit, just because it's like he and I went through fire together, so we're like bonded for life kind of thing. And I'm really excited for him. He got nominated. Like Wonder Woman got nominated for an Eisner.
It did.
And so did I.
And congratulations. That's right. We didn't talk about that yet. Congratulations.
I forgot about it until this exact moment. And I was
right? Like, no. And I'm thankful that I did text you when I saw it. Like, it's not like this is the first time we talked about it. I was like, hey, congrats. Like,
that's right. Yeah, that'd be funny. No, dude, it was really funny because I was surprised. I will tell you. So 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago, I knew I was going to do Superman, right? So remember, I knew I was going to do Superman before Dark Crisis even started.
Wow.
And I had sat down with Philip to talk about his action plans, other writers, and I remember me and Ram V went on this like really long walk in the rain and just talked about Superman for like an hour. Yeah. I remember it was like Florida, and we're just getting drenched, just trying to get back from the restaurant to our hotel and get drenched and talking about Superman. So I knew then, and I was talking to Paul Kaminsky, who was the editor, and he was the one that asked me. He was like, "Do you want to do Superman? I think you should do it," and all this stuff. And I was like, I was going to do another book at the time, and we decided I would not do that book. I would do Superman, and he made this comment. He was like, "This book is going to get nominated for an Eisner," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay." And then, so then they got nominated, and so I was really shocked. But I was happy because it was like that issue. I spent so much time on that issue too. Like, I mean, that one, even at the time, I was like, this one, I took a long time to write that one. Like, I was really getting into it and making it, I had a whiteboard, like a giant whiteboard where I was trying to figure it out. And they thought it was going to be like 5 standalone stories. And I'm like, no, it's all connected. It's all Lois and them on these things. And this is what happens. And I was like, we'll have multiple artists, and then the artist will fit. It was funny because at one point the editor Paul was like, well, I'm going to make it so that these artists are on these stories. And I was like, no. I got it. And I had it like color coded to who was going to do what. Cause I was like, I know this issue is ever going to do it. Yeah. And he was like, okay, all right. And then, it worked out. So we got nominated, and, today is actually the last day. Today, not when this video is airing, but as you and I are talking, is the day to vote is right now. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's also like we're up against a lot of great books. I mean, this year it's really nice to see all these books that got nominated. I mean, it's like I'm very excited for Tony and Tim for Local Man getting nominated.
Yeah,
a lot of, and like Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees got nominated. I'm very excited for that. Even in the same category as me, you have Tom Taylor and Bruno on Nightwing for the one issue got nominated, and so I don't know. It's very surreal. So I'm kind of like taking a stride, and also it's like I don't know. It is really much an honor to be nominated, because there's a part of my brain that was like, I will never ever get nominated for an Eisner, so I'm not gonna ever worry about it. Right? I flooded out of my brain. Like, I'm never getting nominated, so I'm not gonna worry about it.
Is this your first nomination? Because I didn't want to tell tales out of school, but it feels like you should have been nominated for a couple of things by now.
I saw a lot of people said Birthright, and
I honestly assumed I saw like an Eisner logo on Birthright at some point.
No, nothing ever.
That's shocking.
So I mean, that was part of it, though. I think that around that time, I just kind of was like, maybe I'm just not that kind of writer. Like, I'm just not,
I mean, Nailbiter.
I mean, that's the thing. You just whatever reason, just things don't click, and it's not like there's any pattern because the judges change every year. So there's no like thing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It just didn't work out for me, and I was so that's part of why I've never been weird about it either. It's always I've never been weird about it. Like, I've never had any upsetness about it.
Yep.
Either. Whatever. I've never had any weird feelings about it. I've always been happy for everyone to get nominated, because it is such a like random thing, and so it's like it just makes me be like, I've always been happy for everyone who got nominated. I've never been like, what about me? But it's interesting. Like, and I actually think if you're upset about it privately, that's a whole other story,
Exactly.
But I've never been. I don't know. It's just never been something I felt burned by. But I'm excited about it, and I feel like, hey, you know what? It's nice to be recognized. It's nice that people saw what I was doing and they liked it. And I think that people really enjoyed Superman in general the last year. Totally. So, I'm glad that we were able to get nominated for it. But yeah, we'll see at San Diego. I'll go. I'll sit. I'll wear something. I'm wearing a tie. I don't know why I did this, but I will definitely wear a jacket of some kind. Like, I'm going to a nice thing. When I realized that both Tom and I were nominated, I actually texted Tom because and he didn't know, so I actually got to tell him via text. Be like, oh yeah, you get nominated for 2 things. But then I was like, you and I could sit there and we could hold hands and lose together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what's going on there. I don't know, even got on the stuff we were talking about, movies and stuff. I was about movies where X-Men. I'm gonna bring it all the way back to Fury Road.
Bring it back, yeah.
So, Fury Road, guy stands up and he goes, fuck yeah.
F yeah.
When I saw Batman and Robin, did I tell you this story about the time I saw Batman and Robin?
No, I should tell you, I've never seen Batman and Robin all the way through, because I don't sit and I have now seen all of Madam Web, but I have not seen Batman and Robin. I
haven't seen Madam Web.
I had to watch it for another podcast. I was so angry at my co-host for making me see friggin' Madam Web. By the way, it is, whatever you think, it's worse. Like, it sucks so much.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Can you, when you're watching it, can you see a good movie inside it?
No.
That's
well, here's the thing. Because they shot one. Like, they shot a completely different movie. Because Madam Web was Terminator. Like, the original Madam Web movie.
I know that part. I know there's like weird time travel stuff in it, right?
Well, no,
like,
that's gone.
To the future.
Yeah, right? Originally, it was like Ezekiel's going to kill Mary Parker because she's going to give birth to Peter Parker, who's going to become Spider-Man, who's going to kill him one day.
Yeah. So Terminator.
They cut out all Peter Parker references except for the fact that Mary Parker is in the movie and so is Ben. Like, That's all you have.
There's nothing at the ending that shows that it's Tobey Maguire or something like that. I thought that was like some kind of thing.
So no, it actually is
by the internet. Did I get tricked by the internet?
You did. Well, okay. It's more like the internet went too hard, because here's the thing. So you have to understand, like, because some folk are just like they use the thing that must be no. You're underestimating how lazy Sony is. Like, Sony is
hard on Sony right now. We don't know.
Well, I think after Morbius and Madam Web, we could probably make those kind of.
I'm still fingers crossed from Craven, but man, I'm still fingers crossed for Craven.
I got a buddy who is like the single greatest Craven fan on the planet. Like, he's actually like, I think there should be a Craven comic book series. I think like
he's a great villain. I like him as a villain. Like,
Craven's a fun villain.
Yeah.
Although I always
His Last Hunt is an amazing comic book. I mean,
the one where he dies.
That comic is like next level though. Like, if you read it, you're like, this could have come out today. That's how good this.
Oh yeah, no, it's
the books were bad back then, but you know what I mean. Like, as you're reading it, you're like, they were tapping into something in this moment. I think other books weren't in that moment. That's what I was
absolutely.
saying.
No, that's also the power of J.M. DeMatteis. Is just
so good,
It's just so good, and he could do it all. Like, he's a guy. I'm like, current hosts notwithstanding, I honestly, you could put, we did a whole episode where we're like, what could Joshua Williamson write? And it's like, at the end of the day, the answer was all of it. But but you could put DeMatteis on a book today, like, after Zeb Wells' time is over on Amazing Spider-Man, it's like, who's gonna be on Amazing Spider-Man? I'm like, just put DeMatteis on the book.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Like, he wrote Amazing Spider-Man 100 years ago, and he did a great job. And he never does, like, it's never about the Scorpion. Scorpion's in it, and there's a fight, but like, it's actually about
the Spider-Man is supposed to be about that. Like, I mean, that's the
exactly. This dude gets it, and he's writing that great Green Album book. That's all to say. That Kraven the Last Hunt book is great. Kraven the Hunter of the movie probably won't be.
But you didn't like Madam Web, basically.
But Madam Web sucks, and the thing people are talking about is there's a shot in, I think, Spider-Man 1 or 2, and it's a pure Raimi shot of like camera POV flying at what is clearly a fake building, simulating Spider-Man like swinging up a building at night, and they reused the shot at the end of the movie. Just flagrantly, because they needed a shot of like a rushing building. Like, they just reused the shot. People are like, but that's from Spider-Man, like directed by Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire. It must mean that's the no.
So this is that universe that I thought. Oh man, I got tricked by the internet. I saw something where somebody did like, oh man, I got tricked. That's all I have to say. I got tricked. So I have this thing with movies where. You and I had this conversation before.
You want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, nobody makes a bad movie. Nobody tries
no one tries to make a bad comic. Like, now, if I read something I don't like, or I feel like it is bad, or you feel like there's a universal feeling about something being bad, I don't go like, oh, what an idiot. I go, oh, this sucks. Like, I feel bad for that person.
Shame. It's a shame for everybody involved.
They tried, or it's somebody in that chain of working was like, I'm making something bad, and I don't know what to do about it, right? Like, that's there's been talks about this where like actors will be on a movie and like halfway through shooting they go, oh shit. Like they feel it. They feel, oh no. Right. And you're like, oh, you look around and you're like, oh, there's so much money around me right now.
Yeah.
So much money. And I have to just make it through this. I just got to make it through this.
Yeah. I just got to get through and hope the next one's better.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think I told you a story about Dan where like Dan, I was really upset about something. I'd written a script.
Yes.
Yeah, and Dan was like, "It's okay. It's a beautiful bar of comics. You do it again next month. You try again next month.
You'll get another chance next month." Exactly.
I have a sensitive. Well, go ahead to say your thing.
I was going to ask you. Do you remember? This is a totally different tangent. So put a pin in this one for now. But like, do you remember the first movie you realized was terrible? Like, where you were like, "Oh, they can make these?"
That I didn't like. That I didn't.
Where you went, this is a bad movie. Not like I didn't like it. I've seen like, as a kid, I've seen a lot of movies where I'm like, I don't like this, but where I went, oh, this sucks. Like I remember vividly in the theater seeing a movie.
I think it was Batman Robin.
It was Batman Robin.
So here's the thing, right? All right. I think we've talked about this before. And I was talking about this with Tom just the other day. we were talking about going to the movies, and I was like, if I look at a list of movies that came out every weekend from like, let's say 87 or 87 to like 99, 2001, I kind of realized I must have gone to the movies every weekend.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I saw everything.
Yep.
Like I was like, I saw this, I saw that, I saw that. I'm like, holy shit, I must have gone every weekend. And then when you're like, wait, Land Before Time and Little Mermaid came out on the same day, I must have gone twice that week. Like, you know what I mean? You start going through and you're like, oh God. And actually, I think it might be the other way around. It might have been Oliver and Company came out the same day as
I think you're right. As
Land Before Time. I think that's it.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm like, but again, I saw those both in the theater. So I'm like,
both.
I must have gone to the movies every single weekend for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely was one of those kids that was like, I must have been like, I love every movie I see, right? Like I must have been that person, that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you get a little older, there's movies that you're like,
sure.
I saw it and I'm like, Like I remember seeing Pelican Brief in the theater and being like, not for me, right?
Yep.
But not being like, oh, this is a bad movie, right? Like I don't. But I have two moments of utter like, oh no, and well, three.
Okay.
Batman and Robin.
Sure.
I'm gonna tell you what the three movies are. I'll tell you the story for each. Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Freejack. Batman and Robin. Freejack.
Yep.
And then Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'll start with Phantom Menace. I'll just tell you this about Phantom Menace.
Yeah, we all have our Vietnam event of Phantom Menace. Yeah.
No, I just went and I saw it. Yeah, it is like that because I saw it, and when it was over, I went to. I guess we went to Taco Bell. I always tell this story. Taco Bell.
Yes,
drinking it. It was good, right? It was good, right? Yeah, we all agree it was good. Drinking out of my Watto cup.
Uh-huh.
I just got the collector Watto cup, so it was good, right? Like, that is my Phantom Menace story.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin. I have just finished. I can't remember. It was my sophomore year of high school. I think it definitely wasn't senior or junior. It might have been freshman, but it was sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, that was 97.
Yeah, so it must have been sophomore year of high school. So I'm like totally dating myself for everyone listening. So I went to a house party, a quote unquote kickback.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know it. Like that was a California thing, maybe, where it was like it's not a party, it's just a kickback.
We're just kicking back, yeah.
Just kicking back. You could have like 20 people in your house, but it was like there was something different about it. It wasn't a full. So I'm at this kickback and we're all hanging out. There's like 20 of us, maybe more. And we start talking about like, what are we gonna do tonight? What are we gonna do tonight? What are we gonna do tonight? Well, guess what? We're all in high school, so it's a limited amount of shit we're gonna do. Right?
Yeah.
Like, who's got the older brother? Like, who's got the older sibling that's old enough to get us alcohol? Kind of conversations are kicking off, and it's like none of us do. We're all like,
nobody,
right? So it's like this whole thing, and only some of us can drive at that point. And so we're sitting there. We're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I was like, I know what we're gonna do. Batman and Robin just came out. It came out today. Let's go to the midnight showing.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to see it that weekend, but I was like, let's go. All of us right now. It's going to be awesome. Let's all go. It's going to be great. And I remember being like, I'm in this room full of people. And I go, it's got George Clooney in it.
Right.
It's got Uma Thurman. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everybody's like, oh my God. Like, these actors, let's do this.
Yeah.
So it was 17 of us.
You dragged 17 people.
We get to the theater and it is nearly sold out.
Is it really?
No. Remember, Batman and Robin made a lot of money. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
It didn't have legs. That was the problem. It had awful reviews. Didn't have legs.
Yeah, everyone
on the first weekend. The second week is like,
oh sure.
There's word of mouth as everybody's like, you mean that there's a car accident over there? I'll go see that shit.
Oh, I'd rather watch that. Yeah, that's true.
So we get to the theater and it's packed, and the only thing that is available is the very front row.
Oh,
and this is back in the day. This is not like front row with nice seats. This is
hell no. This is
like this. I have no idea what's happening. These colors.
You can't even see it. Yeah.
we watch it like that. This is also how I saw GoldenEye. I remember that. We go. GoldenEye is the better movie.
Yes.
This thing, and we're watching this movie, and it's awful.
Yeah,
like it's awful, and nothing is working. And there's weirdly bad editing in that movie too.
Yeah,
and there's a part where it's the part with the motorcycle race. And you've never seen it on
race. I've only seen scenes from it. I've seen John Glover's scene where he plays the Floronic Man. I've seen the back credit card scene.
That's all in the first 15 minutes.
That's all I've seen. Yeah, so I've watched the first 15 minutes and I turned it the hell off.
All right, so there's a motorcycle chase. It's the scene where basically Robin meets Batgirl, but she's not Batgirl yet. He meets Barb.
Yes.
I think he knows
Alfred's niece or something.
Alfred's niece. He knows who Barb is, but he's like, oh, she's the nerdy niece character, right? Mm-hmm. But apparently she's also races motorcycles. So they go and they're gonna have this motorcycle race. There's motorcycle gangs, and they all wear neon.
Yep.
And so I think if I remember this correctly, Dick realizes she's sneaking out and follows her. So it's not like she follows him; he follows her. She realizes she does these motorcycle races, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a motorcycle race too."
Okay,
right? I'm gonna follow her. So he goes there. Somebody in the comments is gonna be like, "Josh, you have us all wrong." They go and they do the motorcycle race, and it's this crazy elaborate scene. They're using motorcycles to jump over buildings and shit. They're, I think the bridge is coming up or something. There's this whole thing, and like she's gonna win. Like she has a death wish, sort of. It's never. That movie is fascinating because it's like I see the better movie in it somewhere. Yeah. But they have a chase scene and they're going and they lose their motorcycles or something. I think the bridge is going up versus down or something, and then they're the motorcycles are falling and she falls off, and then I think she catches him or he catches her. I can't remember who catches who. Somebody does the cool I got you.
Yeah.
Move, And this scene is loud. It is loud. It is so loud. So much is going on. I feel like there's sound effects.
There's music.
There's a YouTube song playing. It's it is so much happening right now.
Yeah.
And it is crazy. And even when they have their moment of whoever catches who, we got each other. They cut to black for a second to the point where it feels like a mistake. It goes from
film broke or something.
Loud, bright colors, total insanity, to suddenly silence. Right? Silence. Yeah. What you're talking about, it feels like a glitch.
Yeah.
Right? And a dude in the very back just goes, "What the fuck is this?" And he unlocked something in the room. Yeah. Where in the theater, everybody in that exact moment started talking.
Right. They're this movie's done. We're done.
This movie sucks. It was a moment where he gave everyone approval.
Yes.
He said, "Guys, listen, I'm here too. This movie sucks. Let's talk about it." He basically it was a relief. You're
now we can all, because we were all kind of in denial, right?
And I'm just sitting there being because then all of a sudden they start talking about Albert being sick, and it's quiet. So it's just too much of a weird dynamic, and it was just So that was a moment where I was like, "Oh no, this is a bad movie." I think the moment where I had to be I have to rewatch a bunch of movies again and see if I am just a young dummy is Freejack, because some movies. So again, there's always movies that came out and I would love them. I would go to movies. I'm like, this movie's great,
Yeah.
Another one is when I saw Broken Arrow.
Yeah, Broken Arrow looks really cool, but it's not.
It's not. And then so we went to a screening for Broken Arrow, and they were basically, no, we went to see Broken Arrow. We saw it in the middle of the day. And before the movie starts, this guy comes out and he goes, "Hey, everybody, I just want you to know something. We're really excited." It was really weird. This never happens, right? This guy comes out at the beginning of the movie, goes, "I'm really excited for everyone to watch Broken Arrow. However, if you wish, when the movie is over, we're going to play another movie. And you're going to be the first people to see this movie as a screening. All we ask is that you sign something at the ending saying, 'I watched it.' And just give us a little, did you like it? That's it. Did you like it?" It was a surprise focus group. So we didn't know we were a focus group. And they were like, there is no obligation to stay. You are literally just getting your free movie.
Cool.
And they're like, this is going to come out for many months. But you
California kids, man. You got...
Oh, I know. That's California kids, dude. Yeah, that's like my buddy, a guy I worked at the comic store one time. He had the same thing where he was at the Shriners convention. And they were like, we're doing a screening for anybody in the back. If you want to see this movie, it's up to you. It's not going to be out for a really long time, but you can come and watch it. And it was the fucking Matrix.
Oh, God.
But that was his story. This is what happened to me. So
yeah.
We watched Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow is Broken Arrow.
Yep. Right? It's yeah.
That movie ends, and the guy comes out and he's like, all right, let's watch this movie. We start watching the next movie, and it was Executive Decision.
Oh.
And that's with Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal.
Oh, no.
No, here's the thing, though. I'm not sure if you...
I've never seen Executive Decision.
Oh, dude, this is at peak Steven Seagal. This is this is peak, he not that long after Under Siege.
Yeah, okay.
He was in this moment, he was the movie star. Kurt Russell was not.
Kurt Russell was second billing, yeah.
Yeah, it was him. And there were a bunch of other actors in that movie, but so I'm gonna spoil Executive Decision for you. All right.
Yeah.
So we start watching the movie. We're like, holy shit, it's Steven Seagal, it's Kurt Russell, and I knew Kurt Russell, so I was like, this is dope.
Yeah.
We're watching the movie. Steven Seagal dies in the first 10 minutes. And he's the star.
Yeah.
He dies in the first 10 minutes. I mean, his death he died, and I remember the rest of the movie being like, well, Steven Seagal's coming back, right?
That happens to me so many times now with comic book superhero movies where I'm like, well, so and so just pop right back up.
Yeah, they're coming back in. They're gonna come back in. That's like when we saw G.I. Joe Retaliation, and I was like,
oh, well, yeah. Duke will be back.
James coming back, right? Duke's coming back. But that's what it was like. So that was it. But that also gave me a weird twisted thing where I'm like, we left the theater and we were like, Executive Decision is the greatest movie of all time. We're just like, oh,
it's brave.
Genius on the screen. But so I go see Freejack in the theater as a kid. I really like it. I was like, this movie is great. This movie is awesome. So fast forward many years. I think it might be 97, 98.
Yeah.
And we're doing this class project. And we're doing this class project, but there's two things going on. There's two projects. We also have this thing called mock trial. Do you know what mock trial is?
I do. I had a friend in mock trial. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I had friends in mock trial. So we were doing this thing. We all these projects, and we're like, we have to do a project together. At mock trial, the people in mock trial, we also have to do a project together. So it was very similar. And they're like, well, what is it? And they're like, we have to watch Contact. And we were like, shit, we have to watch Contact.
Cool.
So we're like, let's all get together and have a Contact party. Just watch Contact. And on a Sunday. And they're like, we have to watch it, and we have to give notes and all this stuff, because in the mock trial, I don't remember what my assignment was while we had to watch Contact, but they were like, we have to watch it because it was like in their mock case, right?
Well, there's a phenomenal cross-examination sequence in Contact of all movies where
that might
they just destroy her.
They destroy her. Yeah. Oh, dude, that I like that movie. I love that.
It's good. It's a good movie.
I think about that scene a lot where it's like, why build one when you can build two?
We make that reference on the show all the time.
Dude, yeah, same here. Yeah, same here. Dennis and I were talking about yesterday. There's a quote that I quote Jurassic Park to myself all the time.
Totally. Yeah.
And I quote the "Are there any dinosaurs on this dinosaur ride?"
I say that all the time. Yeah,
I said it to Dennis, and I just said it in passing, about something else. I kind of said it under my breath, and he was cracking up, and he was like, that was so perfect in context. And I'm like, bro, I say that to myself once a week. there are
going to be some bagels in this bagel shop, right?
Yes. Oh, dude. Yes. That's exactly right. Trust me.
Yeah.
I think it's a rule of comics sometimes. Is if I'm reading a comic book and there's certain things that aren't happening, and I'm like, this is, so it's
there will be some spiders in my Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Without getting into specifics here. Well, dude, it was funny. I started rewatching the Ang Lee Hulk movie the other night.
Oh boy.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, it really was 39 minutes before Hulk showed up.
Yeah.
I was like, I
don't hate that movie.
You hate it?
No, I don't hate it.
Me neither. I actually saw it in the theater and I liked it because I was so fascinated by it.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were things where I was like
so
the ILM effects. I like how Hulk looks in that movie. I was like,
even rewatching it now, there's a couple of parts, but I'm like, he doesn't look as bad as I think people.
No, he holds up pretty well.
Fascinating. When the movie came out, I read an article, it was a review, and they were like, it was an interview with Ang Lee and the editor, and they were talking about the editing thing, but I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, that's interesting. So when they were watching it, he was like, well, I wanted to make it like comic book panels. That's what he was thinking, right?
Yeah.
Here's my take on that movie. Let me tell you this. All right, this is my take on that movie. People make fun of it. If that movie had never come out, but that movie was adapted as a comic book, exactly how they shot it, all the shots of like plants and shit in that movie, right? Like random, and just the conversation. I was like, that'd be the highest reviewed comic of the year. like people are like, this is a work of art. But yeah, so Freejack.
Yeah.
So Contact. So whatever happened, I remember they were like, well, we're gonna hang out. We should pick 2 movies. And I was like, you know what the second movie should be? Freejack. And I was like, this movie is so good. It's about the future. It's got this people in it. And I was like, this got Mick Jagger in it. And he's playing this like bounty hunter cop guy. And he's trying to track down this person. And like, you know, Emilio Estevez, Rene Russo's in it, Anthony Hopkins, all good actors. Yeah. And Mick Jagger's here like, listen. And I already seen it. So I was like, listen, this is a fun movie. Let's put this on. See, with Batman and Robin, I feel like I had the darkness to protect me.
People could look at you, but you don't necessarily feel their looks.
I did not feel like I put my name on the line. Freejack, I feel like I told everybody, this is a good movie. I have seen it. Because here's the Batman and Robin. I was like, I haven't seen it. I don't know anything about it. But come on, it's Batman. There's the people in it. It's going to be fun at the very least, right?
Yeah.
And so I could leave that theater being like, I don't know what just happened.
Sorry. Yeah, that was my bad. But you know what? We got to blame some of it on them. We were all bamboozled.
Part of the reason why I mentioned that it was the middle of the day is because I think there is something about watching a movie in the middle of the day and it is sunny. Like,
like you're wasting daylight.
but there is no darkness for me to hide.
That's true. Yeah.
It's just me in somebody's living room with like 10 other people, like the high schoolers like me.
Yes.
Watching Freejack, and me just being like, is there any way in this exact moment that I can turn invisible?
Yes.
Can I become one? I remember it was a white leather chair I was sitting in, and I remember thinking, is there any way I can become one with this chair? Can this chair swallow me?
Yeah.
So that I can out of here, this room, and just the uncomfortable, like, oh, this is not a good movie. And just watching it, and I feel I actually the other day realized it was Amazon Prime, and I saved it because I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm gonna rewatch it. Well, because every once in a while you go back and you watch a movie. Like a few years ago, I went back and I watched Tango and Cash, and I was like, still genius, still beautiful, love the movie,
totally
love it. But Freejack, I don't know, in that moment. So those are the movies that I was sitting there being like, yeah. This is a thing. I don't know before that. Even as a kid, I think I might have preferences. If somebody was like, which of these 2 do you prefer? Sure. I might have been like, oh, I like this one more. It's funny with my kids now. I love asking them which ones are their favorites. What are their favorite movies? And
it's never what you're gonna guess.
No, or they'll be like, all of them. Like they won't decide. Like my daughter and I watch all of Pirates of the Caribbean, watch all 5 of them,
and she doesn't know the difference in quality. She's like, it's all great, they're all swinging.
No, she picks the one that I don't like.
Oh,
she's obsessed with one of them. And she's like, this is the good one, and I'm like, what?
Which one is it?
It's the 4th one. Oh. Is it On Stranger Tides? Yeah, On Stranger Tides. She loves that one because I think that's the 4th. The 5th one is Dead Men Tell No Tales.
I don't know the difference. After the 3rd one, I stopped watching Pirates movies. I was like,
oh, really? So I've seen all of them. I like.
One is like a perfect movie.
One is great. So we watched all of them in the space of like maybe 2 weeks. We just watched all of them. Yeah. And by the time I got to the ending, I was like, okay, the first one is clearly the most solid. And I think it's weird because 2 and 3 go together, you know.
They do.
I have the same feelings about Star Wars because I feel like New Hope as an adult. When I was a kid, I was like, I've had waves where I'm like, as a little kid, I was like, Return of the Jedi's the best one.
Totally. As a kid, definitely.
It was built for me as a child. Yeah. And also that opening sequence is just
killer.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. It's like, I knew what Star Wars was. I watched Star Wars, and here comes Luke wearing a black cloak, and he is just super badass. There's a whole action sequence, and they save Han. And guess what? You got speeder bikes in this movie. Like
speeder bikes.
Speeder bikes are cool. It's just that this movie's for me. Then you get older, and then you watch Empire, and you're like, Empire is a very good movie. Yes. Like you're just like, this is the acting, the set pieces, the way it flows, the dialogue. Like this is.
I'm not just enjoying Star Wars. This is cinema. Like
yeah, you're like, this is it. As an adult now, the one that I kind of go back to the most and I rewatch much. Every time I get a new TV or when I had the theater set up in here, I was like, time to watch New Hope. Yeah. New Hope is the most pure of all of them. And here's why I'll say this, because it's like you don't have, because Empire is a cliffhanger. It's a sequel to, you have to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And also that is when they started like messing with their own continuity. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, we're messing with stuff. It's like, and then you get the third one, you're like, wait, what? That his sister too?
Always knew? No, you didn't.
Yeah, always knew. Was that the plan? I don't buy that. And then it's like with New Hope, you're just like, the only problem with New Hope is that Chewbacca doesn't get the goddamn medal.
And even then, that's just like, you know what? They're playing it honest. It's a racist galaxy.
Yeah. But it's like, at least with that movie, it's like it has a beginning, middle, and end. I understand what's happening. Yeah. It's all here, and there is an ending. Right, like it, you know, there's no emperor yet.
No,
really.
No,
you know?
The bad they like, talk about, they mention him, but like,
yeah, it's like we blew up the Death Star and all those bad guys were on there, and Darth Vader doesn't get defeated, but he gets like sponged off or whatever. He's like, wow. Yeah, you know, we didn't ever see it again. It feels like all the pieces are here, but yeah, when you watch Empire, like, this is a very good movie, and then you as you look back at it, and then also, but here's the thing about Empire, excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call this the Empire curse, because ever since Empire Strikes Back, every time someone does the second movie, there is an expectation of the ending. Yes. Is this the Empire movie? Is this the like, oh no, there's a problem, we lost movie? Or what is the twist? Is it Darth Vader is your father, or is it this ends on a cliffhanger?
Yeah.
So every time you go to the theater, if someone tells you there's a trilogy, oh man, that poor second movie, because it will never live up to your expectation.
Yeah.
So
although there is one where I was like, I think it's Two Towers.
Oh well, man, okay.
And I mean, and cinephiles would say Godfather 2, but like,
well, Godfather 2 doesn't. I mean, listen. Also, it's kind of weird to think about like the time between Godfather 2 and Godfather 3, not as long as you might think.
Not as long as you think. No.
I'm like, it's like 30 years, right? You're like, it's like 14.
I think
we waited longer for a new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Than we waited. I might be wrong on that. But they kind of line up. I think it's the same amount of time. But...
They also both won Best Picture that year.
What? Oh, you're talking about Two Towers, or
no, Godfather and Godfather 2, both are Best Picture.
Oh yeah, they were back to back. Yeah, it's crazy to think that like when Godfather 2 came out, The Conversation came out the same year, and he was up against himself.
I know, that's nuts.
To win. Did you watch The Offer? Did you watch the show The Offer?
No, I haven't seen The Offer, but I know what you're talking about.
You should watch it.
I will.
It's really fascinating. We should dive into questions now. We've been talking about, we've been bullshitting.
I always talking about movies.
And also, before we get to that, something really to say for everyone watching this, I tell this people all the time. Sal and I talked for like an hour and a half before we started recording.
I know we've been doing this for like 2 hours. I'm sorry. I feel like I always.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew I was doing this today. I knew this is. I already had like a bunch of Zooms. I was like, this is all I'm doing for the rest of the day.
This is also why like it didn't happen for a month, because like each time we're like, yeah, this is gonna work out. Do I have 3.5, 4 hours?
Well, also look at my time, and I'm like, okay. I have a Zoom here. I have this here. I have this appointment here. I have to write this comic book. So,
I know you have work to do. This is my work. So I'm like, oh yay.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, it is.
But
yeah.
I have a similar Batman and Robin story. I'll keep it brief because I have the exact same experience where I was in high school. I made some new friends. I'm eager to impress them. And suddenly there's a sequel to a movie that I loved. I saw it in theaters and I had an amazing time seeing that first movie. It was incredible. My best friend and I watched it in the theater. We fucking couldn't believe there was nobody there to see it.
Wait. Okay, yeah. Wait. This is not Batman, though.
Not Batman. This is a different movie, but exact same experience.
What? How old were you?
Oh, like 13, 14, maybe.
Okay. Wait.
13, probably. You'll never guess because
it's not Back to the Future, because it's not Back to the
Future.
No. You're not the right. Yeah.
Well, Back to the Future, I love them all. I would have been I was disappointed by Cowboys, but I've learned to love them.
Oh yeah, I love 3 now.
Yeah,
I love 3 now. I like it in the theater now. I've had waves on it, and then now
Back to the Future 2 is also great. Like as far as Empire effects.
And guess what? Cliffhanger and twist.
Did it? And they nailed it.
Nailed it. All right. So okay, go ahead. I'm not gonna guess. I'm not gonna guess.
So we're in the theater to see the sequel to it, and they're like, "Do we need to see the first one?" I'm like, "No. You're good. I'll bring you up to speed on the way." We get to the theater. It's conspicuously empty. We get an entire row. We get into the row. We sit down. We get up. And the credits for Mortal Kombat Annihilation come onto the screen.
Oh no, I did not know what it was.
I know, it's because Mortal Kombat sucks, but it's fun. No, Mortal Kombat's great. It's a cheesy crap movie, but I love it. I love Mortal Kombat 1. I think it's also Paul W.S. Anderson. No surprise there. But
no, I one of my favorite movie going experiences ever in life is watching the first Mortal Kombat in theater at a midnight showing.
Oh,
we had convinced parents to take us.
Yep.
And before the movie started, I mean, it was a rowdy house. Kids losing their minds, throwing popcorn. I mean, it was like that type of dynamic.
Yes, it was like the movies, like the movie theater and the Karate Kid. Like,
yeah, and it was like every kid was like, "We love Mortal Kombat." And then a guy came out and he told us. He said, "Listen, I'm like, guys, no, just for you, we turned the music up.
Oh,
we blasted it." So that opening, lost our fucking mind.
Oh,
everybody who character showed up. I don't even think we were listening to what people were saying. It was
who cares? They weren't saying anything of. They didn't say anything of consequence. But Christopher Lambert as Raiden is inspired because I love Christopher Lambert. We were big Highlander fans.
Well, that's what I thought you were gonna say. That's what I was like.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, Highlander 2. I'm too young for I was too young for Highlander 2.
I saw The Quickening in the theater and I liked it. So I'm that kid.
Hey, I saw Highlander Endgame in theaters.
I've never seen any past two.
Endgame's worth seeing because it's got Connor and Duncan in the same movie.
I know. So here's the funny thing. I saw 2 before I saw 1.
Oh shit.
So when I saw
that's gonna skew your experience.
I was like, this movie's crazy. Everyone in the theater, my parents, everybody was like, this is not what is happening, right? So I was like, this movie's crazy. This is a sequel. I was to watch the first one.
Yeah.
And then I watched the first one and I'm like, what?
This is like an indie flick. Yeah.
But I was like, this is not the same movie. Like,
no.
That's when you were like, oh, do I have to know anything about the sequel or the first one? And that's when you're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you don't.
Yeah. No, really Highlander 2? Yeah, no. You're good.
God. Did you see that there was an article where a dude said that he watched Annihilation every night for a year?
Oh, that'll make it crazy.
He was talking about how every night for a year he just watched. I'm like, what else was happening in your life? But
yeah, you've lost control.
So I've never seen it. I've seen parts of it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like it looks like a fan film. And so we're watching the movie and immediately, like within the first 2 seconds, they killed Johnny Cage in the first 2 seconds.
No, I know that. I knew that part.
And I'm like, well, he'll be back. Cause like it's like a video game, they'll just put more quarters in and he'll be fine. Like he'll be back. He was great. But like, and it'll be triumphant. It'll be so cool when Johnny Cage comes back. And these people don't know because they don't read comic books. They don't like video games. They don't know.
Oh yeah. But the trick was you didn't know.
Well, the trick is they couldn't care less about Johnny Cage coming back or not. But about like 25.
God.
So we get to the part where I think Sindel goes, "Too bad you will die." She does the big like immortal laughable performance.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
I stand up. And I just turn to the audience I brought, which is like 8 people, and I go, "I am sorry that I did not know it was going to be like this." And immediately they were like, "Okay, yeah, can we go now?" And I'm like, "Yes, we can leave." And we just got out of the theater.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
But I had to apologize. And like there were other people in the theater, just like 2 or 3, and they were like, yes, thank you for saying. And we all were kind of confused about what we were looking at, but like, someone has taken ownership. It's like I will take on the burden of the film and apologize for me. I'm not Paul W.S. Anderson, but or whoever made that movie. It wasn't Anderson, but it was somebody else. Yeah. I am not the production team from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but I will take on the apology for that.
Oh my god!
Excuse you from staying here, but yeah.
I love whenever you go to the movie and you think it's going to be packed and there's nobody there. Like that is such a weird, defeating moment.
Oh, that's when you know. That's
when we know. We saw Daredevil. When we saw Daredevil in the theater, the Ben Affleck one, it was packed. I mean, that was a packed theater. And, You know,
Spider-Man Mania. They were like, "Oh, it's going to be just as good."
Well, it was. I mean, you know, so when that was over, when that movie ended, my buddy and I, Vinny, he was a couple people down from me, and the movie ended. We both loved Daredevil, and so like, we're both big Daredevil guys. And so when that movie ended, we both turned and looked at each other, and both at the exact same time said, "That was awesome." Like we were so into it. We were so into it. And I remember I got home, and we were at a midnight screening. So I got home. I'm in my apartment, and I'm like, it was good. Got to go to work tomorrow at the comic book store, but I did it because that was the thing. Working at the comic book store, any nerdy movie, you had to see it Thursday.
You had to see it immediately, otherwise it's gonna get spoiled.
People would spoil that shit the next day. It was like, I mean, it was a rule. We had a sign. It was like, "Do not spoil movies," and people would try to spoil some time. Yeah. So, and part of the problem was at the time people would release movie adaptations ahead, so you're just like, people are flipping through it, and you're like, I don't know. Yeah. Or trying to spoil stuff. Oh, my brother saw it, blah, blah, blah. And like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So we would always, like, everybody at the comic store, basically, whenever there was a comic or a nerdy movie of any kind, Star Wars, Daredevil, Sin City, whatever, we all went.
Oh, yeah.
We all went. Right?
Yep.
And so in my apartment, it's like 2:30, 3 in the morning, and my phone rings. And this is before I had a cell phone, my friend. So we're talking about a full-on, like, ring, 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 like an actual phone. I pick
up. You had to get up and pick it up, yeah.
Yeah, and so I picked up the phone, and it was one of the guys that worked at the comic book store who saw a different theater.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Did you see it?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was a big Marvel guy. "Did you see it?" "Yeah." And I go, "It was," and he goes, "awful." Awful. And I was like, "Dude, we're going to talk about this tomorrow." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I liked it." And he's like, "You're... what?" I'm like, "Dude, it's 3 in the morning."
Right.
Like, we started arguing. I'm like, "Listen, man, I will literally see you in a few hours."
Yeah, I gotta get 2 hours of sleep. Yeah.
I spent the day defending Daredevil the next day.
You're the guy.
But, you know, I'm sure it was correct. I think the Thomas Jane Punisher came out the same day as Kill Bill 2. Not one.
I saw both of those movies in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember staying in line we got to the Punisher line. We got to the Punisher. We thought there was going to be a line. No line. We got there. There was a line, you know, but we were there way too early.
Yeah.
There was a line. And then we get there, and then Kill Bill 2 gets out. Everyone's like so happy and leaving the theater. We could see it, you know, and we're like, you know, we're seeing Punisher. I think this is right. It might have been in the movie. I feel like this is right. And so we go in there. We watch Punisher, which is also a weird movie. It's not necessarily a bad movie. It's a weird movie.
I don't hate it. I love Tom Jane as Punisher. I love the music. I watched it. That score.
It's good. I watched it recently, and I was like, this is a really interesting. It's a really interesting.
It is. You can tell it's like they want to make a Western. They're like, ooh.
Yeah, it's Western-y. It's a revenge story. Like, it's once you get into it, it's like, it's so funny because, you know, I love Garth Ennis, so it's like,
the Russian shows up. And
all the Garth Ennis stuff they sort of put into it was really interesting.
Backer Dave,
The reason why I brought that one up is I remember, so my wife, she was on a date to see Punisher when that came out, and she was still in high school when that movie came out, and so she went and she went on a date, and she's like, the guy she was on the date with was like, he loved the Punisher, and he's like, "This is gonna be the biggest movie of the year. We better get there early." They got there like 4 hours early, and then they were the only people in the theater.
Oh man, yeah. I passed up an opportunity to be in that movie. My brother lived in Tampa at the time. Yeah, my brother lived in Tampa. He was like, they're shooting the Punisher. They're shooting a Marvel movie 10 minutes from my house. Fly down from Jersey and come to Tampa, and you get to be. It's a big crowd scene. It's the moment when they throw the money out the window.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, nah. Well, I go. Wait, what Marvel character? He goes, I think it's Punisher. I go,
nah. You're like, if it was Spider-Man, I would have been there.
Oh, if it was Spider-Man, I would have been there. But
I told you I worked on Spider-Man. I was there on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
When Chip was on here, and I told that whole story, my embarrassing story. So go back and watch one of the old videos from like years ago. You'll see it. It's on there.
Actually, apropos of that, I have some fun information about our show that people should know, and it's that, like, not only has this, like, we are now almost at a year of making the show, because the first episode of All Stars launched in January of 2023.
Yeah.
that the first Josh episode of anything we did was June 4th, 2019.
What? 5 years ago?
Yeah, you and I have been podcasting together for 5 years.
I would not have thought about that, because also it's kind of weird because you and I text each other too, so it's not like we're just like we do this and we don't talk to each other.
Yeah, no.
I feel like you and I just talk sometimes, so it's not like every time. So I'm like, wait, were we recording this whole time?
That's what this show was, basically.
Yeah, it was. It was like, that's funny. It's funny. I remember the first time I saw you in person was before we were recording. It was at New York Comic Con, and I think we almost ran into each other in the green room.
Yes.
And I think I had Scott with me or something. It was like that. And I was like, oh, I watched that guy's show. And that was that. I remember that. I remember that was the first time we
oh my God. Yeah, that was, I would have been like, oh man, I love your RoboCop.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, it might have been that. I remember how long ago that was.
Yeah.
RoboCop. That was 10 years ago.
I dedicated a whole episode to that. Where I was like, dude, this Boom Studios nailed it. This Josh guy.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I had a real with that one. I told
them
I had a request when they gave it to me because they were still gearing up for the new movie, the reboot. And I was like, all I ask is one thing. Can I just pretend that nothing but the first movie happened?
That's all anybody wants.
Ignore the second movie. And don't get me wrong, I've seen the second and the third one. There's parts of my life I was like, can I just ignore it all? Because I think continuity wise, can I just do this? And actually, I think if I would go back, I would have done some parts of it differently. Because my take on RoboCop was almost like Swamp Thing. It's going to sound really to you, but it's like he is not he's not Murphy anymore. Like that's the whole thing, is he's not Murphy. And so the ending when he says like call me Murphy or whatever, Murphy, it's like, no, you're not Murphy, you're RoboCop. Because that's the thing with Alec Holland. Alec Holland is not Alec Holland. Like Swamp Thing is not Alec Holland. He believes he's Alec Holland, right?
That's right.
And I was like, that is what RoboCop is, because he is not Murphy. He is something new. Yeah. And so that was my whole thing of like, I wanted to explore that idea. And that's why the ending at the very last issue 12, he says, call me RoboCop, because I was like, he's not Murphy. That's it. That is gone.
You and anatomy lessons, RoboCop.
he needs to admit that he is no longer Murphy. It's beyond his family and kid are gone. He's not Murphy. So I had to.
You're not going home, Murphy. Like that's.
He's not going home. And also, it's because he's fucking immortal. Like I mean, he's not immortal. He is vulnerable, but he is still immortal. And like all this stuff, his memories are different. It's like, and also you could play with his memories. It's interesting, right?
Oh so they say like his brain isn't even his brain anymore. Like they had to build it up. Like it's We'll just do some questions from the audience.
Yeah, let's do the questions. So
from the live show.
Yeah, the live show, there were questions we missed them, and I felt bad that we missed them. So I set aside. I'm like, let's answer those questions in this one, and exactly.
So I think we'll go backwards. We'll go for the last question and then go all the way until we catch up with like, oh, I remember that.
Okay,
This was just a very nice. This is just a nice comment from Jacoby, who says, "I love that Sal's just sitting and listening to you guys." But a question for all three of you, which would be one of you now. How do you recommend keeping up with what's coming up with comics? I use Wikipedia that says what's coming out.
Oh, really? That's interesting. This is something I think about a lot. Is like if somebody just wants to know what is going on, I think that is difficult right now. I mean, I think there are sites, but it's like everyone's information is different. I think sometimes you just want to have like the most basic information. For me, and knowing what books are coming out, I use League of Comic Geeks, I think is what it's called.
Yes, I do too.
I just go look at it and I go, okay, like I'm not a member of it or anything, but I go look and I go, yep, that's what's coming out this week. Like that helps me go through. And then I'm like, oh, the books I want to see. And then it's like, oh no, these are books that are out in general. That's how I find out. I mean, I think right now getting the messaging out about comic books is really difficult right now, because even this week, there was a book that came out this week that I found out this morning it came out. And I was like, how did I not know? It was like a book a friend did. And I'm like, how did I not know this came out? But
yeah,
so I would say that if you're just trying to know that with comic news, I mean, I wish there was like some kind of newsletter that just was like, here's
what's coming out this week. Like
not how do I put this? No takes.
Yes.
This is literally
just the info.
The info. Here are the books that come out, and here is what happened in comics this week. Like here are the things, like this person got this book got announced. No, because I think a lot of times stuff gets mixed up in commentary, and then that commentary becomes the story. It's like, no, just this is the information. I wish there was a newsletter that did that. There might be one, I don't know. Yeah. But when it comes to that, that's it. So I feel like I'll miss out on a lot of comics news, but then every once in a while something will come up and I'll see it. Like, I also go to Adventures in Poor Taste sometimes for news, because they'll at least post like, here's literally the press releases. Like this stuff got announced. Yes. And so that sometimes is helpful, because it's just like, oh, this got announced. That's all I can go look at it,
Exactly.
So like when did we talk about this, when Alien versus Avengers got announced, or Avengers versus Alien?
We talked off mic about how I can't like holy crap. Like I was just like, what?
Amazing. And I was like, I imagine it was Hickman, but whoever figured out to flip the logo, so it was A versus A.
Just nuts. It looks, for those of you who don't know, if you flip over the A versus A logo, it's the Weyland-Yutani logo. Yeah,
dude, it's so annoying.
Oh my god. Annoying. Yeah.
But anyway, that's basically it.
Yeah. Scoro says, there are some comic runs that I've always wanted to check out, but I haven't because I've heard mixed things. How do you approach starting to read a series that has ups and downs?
Man, because I read a lot of books. And ultimately it's your choice. Yeah. And I said in the thing where it's like, if you take your favorite movie of all time, and you go look at the 1-star reviews for that movie,
oh my god,
it's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna be like, they did not watch the same movie as me. Yeah. And so I think realistically, like, if there's something that you're like, and what I say about this, when I say a run, I'm talking about a singular voice for that run, because obviously nowadays it's hard to have one artist on a book for an extended period of time. I think that's definitely challenging, but it's like it's like Slott on Spider-Man or Bendis on Avengers, right? Like
that's
Bendis had multiple artists, but that was Bendis owned the Avengers for like 10 years,
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like that is his. And I feel like it's just on you. Like, I mean, if somebody's telling you like, oh, this run has ups and downs, it's like, you're only gonna know for yourself if you go check it out. If you are engaged enough that you're like, I want to read this, and you gotta go in there. Because there are times where it's like, there might be stuff that this is the down point. They're like, that's my favorite. We were just talking about this with Bastion. Like, oh yeah, I like that story. Like, I like it, and I'm like the one, but so what? Like, I liked it. So I feel like you should just go into it. If there's something about it that's already engaging to you, go into it. Because there's times, I mean, there are books and movies that come out that I'm like, I love this, and I talk to a friend and they're like, this is awful. There's jokes. Oh, I see memes all the time about somebody watching a movie and being like, this movie changed my life, and they go look at Rotten Tomatoes and it has a 20%. Yes. I mean, keep in mind, Home Alone, classic, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, there's actually a question about that exact thing, not Home Alone specifically, but Jacoby, Hook is amazing.
Yeah, Hook's amazing. We all know it.
That's
it, dude.
Right? Like Hook.
People hate Hook.
People hate when it came out. Hook was
hate it.
And now
I told you there's a creator who I know. Might have told you off who it was. Yeah. And I was texting with them one time, and Hook came up, and I said I liked it, and they stopped texting me back. They were very angry.
Yeah.
I talked to them later on, and it was fine. But
that's why though.
Hear from them for a moment because they were mad that I liked Hook. So
did you read Jenny Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill book, right?
Yeah.
That there's a Hook reference in it, and it's like so awesome. And I remember reaching out to him, and I'm like, dude, like Hook. He's like,
yeah. I was a big fan of Daniel's for a long time. I tried to get Daniel on Flash when I was on Flash, and I don't even
what a get.
I mean, early.
Yeah.
Like early me on Flash, like in the first year of me being on Flash, I was like, this guy's amazing. Can we get him? And
people did not get it.
Did not work out. Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. That guy's
people didn't get it. Yeah. I was so thrilled to see what was it? James Gunn being like, just read Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
Yeah, Dead Earth.
Like,
yeah.
This is sick. And I'm like, damn right.
He's good. Dude's good. He's like I always tell Daniel, I feel like Daniel is like rated R Pixar.
Yeah,
like take on him, like anything you watch, it's like it's so much heart, so much character, but he also has this other edge to everything he does. That's just it.
There's an earnestness that's on the undercurrent of what he's doing, where it's like, and when you talk to him, he's just like, he's the Bob Ross of comics, where he's just like,
oh man,
and then
I've seen him on Bob Ross.
He's like, that's pretty fucked up right there. Yeah, he's such a sweet dude.
I like this. He's very funny. I like him a lot. Very good people. Yeah.
Let's see. Hayden Hamilton, I have several friends all involved with comics. I'm trying to be. How do you get noticed by or pitched to the big two? This is a good question because everybody wants to know, like, how do I get, onto a big two book? And the answer is pretty much the same. It's been the same answer I know for like 20 years, but let's at least.
Oh man, it's been
make your own book.
Make your own book, but that's really it. Like that's the only way to ever get their attention. And then it's like, man, I think the hardest lesson to learn sometimes is, and I've seen this with creators, the act of making a book isn't enough. And I think there are people who think, we could do a whole video,
episode about that.
Yeah. I feel like the whole like once you make a book you're in thing is actually very disingenuous. I think it is heartbreaking.
Yes.
Because it happens to a lot of people because they think I made a book, I'm in. And it's like, well then what do you define as in?
Right.
Like, are you? Because I think there are some people like that are made in comics. Do you know what I mean? Like mafia style, like they're lifers, they're made, and I don't even feel like I'm made. And I wrote a fucking crisis, so I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I'm one of the made people in comics, right? So it's like there are some people who are just made, and I think it can be difficult to break in. And I think this is one of the hardest parts of it. And I have this conversation with people all the time where it's like, you look at some of the pros, like, I mean, the legends, I'll say legends, and the struggles that they had and the times where they were at the top and they still got screwed over. It's like, it can be really challenging. And so I think the idea of like, oh, I just made a book, that's it. It's like, that is one step on a very long journey. And it is a journey, gigantic mountain, and it is very hard. And it's like, you have to be able to make those books. Somebody said this one time, they were like, the trick is you have to make a good book and you have to get it in front of that it's it. Like that is all you have control over.
Right.
Is that you can control the work you did and you can try to get in front of people. That is it. And I think that's the piece that some people forget about is getting in front of people. I mean, listen, I told this story before. Like, I mean, I had times where I would give editors my comics and be like, here, I made this, walk 2 feet and then turn around and say something and see them throw that book in the trash.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, it's so complicated. It's so complicated because it's not, he might have slipped through it and just knew automatically this is not good. It's not for me. Boop. Mm-hmm. I think that what you should do is start developing your, two things. First, start developing your voice so you know who you are as a creator. And what I mean by that is that what do you actually like and what do you want to make? Yeah. Because it's like if you start trying to replicate or trying to mimic people or try to be like people, it will take longer. It'll hurt. That was my issue at times where I was like, oh, I want to like Jeff, I want to like Bendis, and those things were not great for me to do. It caused the struggle to increase versus decrease, right?
Yeah.
And it was rough because I actually took Bendis's class and I was able to learn to like not try to be like him through his class. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he was actively teaching people like don't be like me, be like yourself, right? Yeah. Like, and so that's it. And then start developing your eye, because what I mean by this is that one of the most telling things of a book when somebody hands me a book at a convention or I walk around and I'm like, I want to try this book, or I'm in the comic book store and I'm like, that cover looks cool, let me look at it. If I open it up and the lettering is awful, it is a warning sign that this book is not professional. There is something wrong with it. And what I mean by that, I don't mean like, oh, it's like rougher lettering. It is not thoughtful. Because you can have rougher lettering, but it is intentional. Like, it is intentional to work with it. I'm talking about you can tell there are flaws. You can tell it is not thought out. And so what I would say to you is that it's a weird dynamic. You have to find your path, like my way of doing things. You have to say, this is my way of doing it. But you also have to look at the books and look at what you do like and really think about, why do I like this? One of the best pieces of advice I got was from an editor, and they told me we were talking about movies and television shows and being very analytical about TV shows and movies and stuff. And they said to me, they were like, they just looked, this is a long time ago, but they looked, it was before Nailbiter and Ghosted, all of it. They basically were just like, they said this to me, they were like, you have a very critical eye of these things. You're able to see story in these ways. And they're like, where is that in your work? And I remember it was like a punch in the chest,
Yeah.
And like, oh, you're right. And having to really take that step back and start looking at those things and being like, okay, where was I rushing? Where was I cutting corners? Where was I not doing that. And so I think if you start developing those two things, like because really at the end of the day, the it's tough because I understand people want to work for Marvel and DC. I get it. I listen, like, since I was a little kid, right? Like, all I wanted were those things. The only way to really find yourself there is to not do what they do. Like, right. You have to find yourself and you have to put your work together, and then you got to get in front of them. And sometimes that's hard because there are so many, I don't say a million, but there are so many people who want that job. So it's like, you got to do the thing. You got to get a table at a convention. You got to go to the comic book stores and talk to people that work there. Like, you'll be surprised how much people that work at comic book stores are very plugged into what's going on. And not only that, but they like know creators a lot of times.
Yeah.
You got to get just in front of people, and you got to like get these books out there, whether it's the internet. And now I think, and this is something that Bendis would really preach a lot in class. He's like, the ability to get these things in front of people is so much stronger now, because it's like, you can do webcomics, you can do webtoons, you can do a blog, you can do a Substack, you can get things out there, you can make these things and get out there in different ways. It's hard, but to get it out there, then just make those books and do the thing, mail it to people. You know, the reason I got my very first Marvel job was because an editor, there was literally a pile of books that had been mailed to the Marvel offices, and the editor said, "Can I look at these?" And I said yes. He went, he pulled out one of my packages, read the 2 comics, and him, liked them. My email was in the comic, my old email, which has been shut down, and then he emailed me and was like, "Can you do you want to work on this thing?" And that was it. I was shocked because I did not know that editor. Because I have a rule with editors. I never cold email them. I have to meet them. I had to have met them. But I would go to conventions, and it sucks. It can be heartbreaking, but I would have my comic book that I made, and I would go to that panel. But part of this is I only talk to editors. This is going to sound weird. I only talk to editors who made books that I liked. Because that's it, though.
Well, sure, yeah.
What are you doing otherwise, right? So it's like, there's some editor out there somewhere. It's like, he's never spoken to me before. So I walked over, and I would give them my books, and I would do the thing. Like, I would go to conventions. I know this is tough because, especially when you're talking about people who are international or can't afford it, but now with the internet, that's where your blog is. That's where this is. And it's like, I made this look. And now a Kickstarter, like, I wish I had Kickstarter 20 years ago. I would have definitely used it. My books would have been awful, but I would have used it.
Right? Then you'd have a lot more beginner books.
Yes. And I still have beginner books out there in the world. So it's like, I think that you have to do that. So it's tough. I mean, you want to break in, and it's like, you just have to, that's really it. Because I mean, you have these conversations with people who are like, I want to break in. What did you do? And it's like, nothing. And it's like, well, you can't just have an idea, because everybody has ideas. Everybody has ideas.
Yes.
Everybody has ideas.
You have to grind. If I may, there's a difference between the guy who wrote a Crisis and the guy who read one. But I also understand, because there's another element to it, because they're not just looking for a guy who has ideas. They're never looking for a guy with ideas. They got plenty of people. They can throw a rock at anybody with ideas. And it's not just looking for a guy who does one thing. They don't want a person who writes a book and then goes home. They want, like, part of the reason why they want you to make your own book, because they want to see that you can do or understand the industry well enough to facilitate every facet. The point you made about lettering. If it's your book and the lettering sucks, they know you don't know the difference between good lettering and poor lettering.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get to. Because I mean, it's funny. I have a friend who've argued about this. He thinks lettering is pass or fail, and I don't agree. It's like a whole. That's
interesting. I've never thought about it like that. But
he's like, it's pass or fail, and I'm like, no, I think there's levels, because also there's stylistic things, and there's stuff where you're like, I understand this lettering. It's like I can read this comic. It's not a distraction. Well, that's always the thing about lettering, is it shouldn't. If it's a distraction, that's a problem.
Absolutely,
that's a problem. And so, yeah, like, I think you just have to be able to. Have a little bit of a critical eye on yourself. I mean, that's one of the hardest parts sometimes, because all of us want to be geniuses. Robert Kirkman wrote this article on CBR, and people should go look at it. There's 2 of them. They're back to back. They talk about this. But Robert said in this article, this is like 10, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. But Robert used to have a regular column on CBR once upon a time. Like, this is like a lifetime ago. Like, this article could possibly either vote or drink alcohol. I don't remember, but it's long enough.
Yeah.
And basically it said, the headline of the article is, "You might suck."
Or I know that article.
Suck.
You probably suck. Yes.
You probably suck. That's not to say you suck forever.
But you probably suck. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. I think that I think there's a lot of time about education. It's like you are walking into a classroom. You know this. There are people in that classroom who might be further along than you. Right? They might be further along than you.
Yeah.
There's a teacher in that classroom who might know more than you, but in a few years, you might know more than them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is real. And that is what it's like going into comics. You have to be able to recognize that you are coming in. And I always do this thing where I think that, like, I get annoyed when people don't want to tell people stuff because I'm like, or at least educate people, because I'm like, at some point you didn't know something and someone took the time to tell you.
Yes.
Right? So you should be able to do the same. Not knock people for not knowing things.
Yeah.
Right? At least in a nasty way. You can joke about stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. There's a difference in sincerity.
Yes.
And so I think that when you're trying to break in, it's like, just ask questions. You know, I was thankful there were forums that I was able to do and ask questions. You know, I would go to people and just ask questions and try to learn, and then get my books in front of people. That was it. Like, and that's how I was able to break in, because I just really did the grind. And it's like what you were saying, what they're looking for sometimes is people that can do the grind. You know, Dustin Nguyen told me this, the artist, because he and I are friends. I've known him for a really long time. And he told me that what he would do is every year he would go to San Diego Comic-Con with his portfolio, and every year he would work on new pages. Every year, every convention, he would work on new pages. And so he would go to San Diego Comic-Con. He would stand there. He'd wait for an editor. He'd wait for a portfolio review, whatever it was, to the point where DC knew who he was.
Right. They're like, oh, there he is. There's the guy who comes every time and has new pages.
Yeah, and that was the thing. He had new pages, because that was part of the difference. They would look at other portfolios, and it was the exact same pages, year after year. Like, they weren't even trying.
Like, maybe it's my time now, and it's like,
yeah, exactly. Like, this time I'm there. I'm not, but it always feels like you're trying to trick them. Don't try to trick anybody. I think.
Well, and if you do, even if you do, it's like, you know, it's like tricking someone. It's like pretending to be a plumber and then tricking someone into your house, and then it's like, well, now what do I do? You know, it's like you're still gonna ruin their shit.
That's hilarious. You might made me choke there.
I know. Sorry.
Okay, that is so funny. Like, I visualized that while we were talking, and I totally saw it. Like, but they got to a point where they were like, Dustin would show up, and they say, Dustin, who are you looking for? This Saturday. Right. Okay, he'll be here. We will walkie call him, whatever. They're gonna be at this time. Come back. We will make sure you get to see them. Yeah. And then he got hired to do Jet. He got hired to John Layman, who was an editor at the time of Wildstorm, hired him to do Jet. Wow. Like, and then that led to him doing Wildcats 3.0, which led to him doing a bunch of other stuff, and eventually Batman, and now Dustin. Yeah. He and that's the thing. Like, he put that work in. He was just the grind. He was there. He tried, and he was respectful, and he was it's
humble,
like,
and
humble. I'm here on your time, and I think those are all the pieces. I hope that helped that person a little bit. I know it's tough.
I think
we probably could help a whole video. We've never done a whole video on that, but we probably should. Anyway, all right. So next question. Is there any joke character in the big two that you would want to build an event around? A joke
extra medium, like and maybe he means it extra. Well, because his extra medium's point, he said, I'm wrestling with an idea for the self-destruction of the Wrecking Crew. So I don't think the Wrecking Crew are joke characters, but I guess underestimated characters or lesser characters.
Oh, I get what you're saying, smaller characters,
like a speedball event or a like an ambush bug event.
I'm funny enough, yes. But I'm not gonna tell you what it is.
Right, I can't, because
something I'm like, I might actually do that, even if it's for an arc. Like, I have a yes. Yeah. I think about stuff all the time. Like, I think about this stuff way too often. So the answer is yes, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Sorry. Go on.
Let's see. Time guy, long time, first time. Question for Josh: When is the main man getting his own Fragged solo series? You bastich.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
But read House of Brainiac. He's in that.
Yeah. And Brainiac has some cool moments in it. I wish I had more time with him. I wish I had more time. This is always the thing with everything I work on. Whenever I get to the end, I'm like, damn it, I wish I had more pages. I wish I had more issues. But I love Lobo too. I love him too. You know this. I talk about it. It's not a secret. I love Lobo.
CJ Stevenson, hey, when are you taking over a run of a character? When you're taking over a run of a character with iconic runs, how much are you building off of before, and how much are you doing a soft reboot for new readers? What is the balance?
Oh man,
those are good questions. I got to say,
great question. That's a great question. So when I was doing Flash, it was weird because I was already obsessed with that character. I knew it, right? Yeah. So like, I had read a lot of Flash comics before that. The moment I got the job, I was like, what have I not read? And I started rereading. I was rereading plus reading over. But I also was like, my two favorites were Jeff and Mark. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do what Jeff and Mark did. Because what's funny is that, like, if you read from Return of Barry Allen all the way to Rogue War, it feels like one big story.
Yeah.
It's one big story. And I know that Jeff loves Mark and loves Mark's Flash. So I knew what he was doing. So to me, even though I was doing Barry and not Wally, and I had really liked what Jeff had done with Barry, with Rebirth, and then with the Brightest Day series, I was like, I am picking up from there. And this is no offense to Francis or to Venditti, like, and to Brian and Van, because I read their stuff too. But I was like, I'm going to basically pick up what I felt was the torch from those stories, and a bit of those stories too, because I didn't ignore it. My policy on this stuff is I don't ignore anything. It all happened.
That's right.
So I just go from there. Now that was Flash. I'm taking this baton. There's been many people before me, and I'm going to do it like my two favorites. I'm going to do it like them. Right. And there are pros and cons to that. Looking back at it, I know where the pros and the cons were. But I grabbed it and I said, that's what I'm doing. Well, I went to Superman. So I go to Superman. I had a notebook. Right. Had been working on it for years. Got the job. And I was like, I think this is a moment where I need to reintroduce this character. But I recognize that people know who Superman is. So I don't have to do that much.
Yep.
But what I need to do is I need to really introduce the tone more than anything else. Right. This kind of back to status quo, but not really, because there was the Lex stuff that was going to be happening. So it was much more about like taking it and moving the ball forward. But in my notebook, I very specifically wrote a note to myself. I said, no Grant, no Jeff.
Yes.
So anything that Grant and Jeff did, I was not going to do, even though there are pieces, because obviously Brainiac, some of the Lex stuff, like there are pieces, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I am not going to do too many callbacks, because that was the thing about my Flash run. There's a lot of callbacks to Jeff and Mark in it, right? Like, in some ways, you had to have read those books to really get the full effect of what I was doing, right? And, like the real weight, I think, of some scenes, especially with the Hunter Zolomon stuff, it was like I very clearly was referencing, and I even texted with Jeff last year a bit about some of the Hunter stuff, but it was like, because he did the Hunter story in the Flash 700, I think, or 800. So when I start doing those kinds of books, it's a balancing act. Like, you have to make a decision. So when I was doing G.I. Joe, I was doing Duke and Cobra Commander, that was a question I asked at the very beginning. I was like, hey, so, and I already had my ideas on what that book was going to be. Like, I knew what Duke and Cobra Commander were, and I had like mapped some stuff out. But I just asked on the phone one day, I was like, so what is my goal here? Am I trying to appeal to G.I. Joe fans who have been reading G.I. Joe and love G.I. Joe for 40 years? Or am I appealing to somebody who's never read anything with these characters before, never watched the cartoon? And I remember on the phone, they were like, both.
You're like, oh, great.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's what Robert has sort of said later. Robert was like, well, that was why he wanted me to do it, because he knew I knew how to do that because of Flash, because of some of the projects that were there. It's tough. Every once in a while, like Green Arrow. When I write Green Arrow, I'm like, you better read Green Arrow.
Oh, big time. Yeah, that's a cautionary thing I do every time we talk about it. You better be a fan.
Yeah, but when I was with Superman, I was like, this is I kind of looked at the cartoon a lot, so I'm like, okay, because Paul Kaminsky was like, I want the tone of the cartoon. I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's head that direction. And so, I looked at a lot of stuff, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna have fun. This is me doing Superman. I'm gonna have fun with it and do something different. So we were put this piece together. It is a balancing act, and you end up just being a lot of work, a lot of thoughts. But you also have to sort of slow down and say, like, what do I love about this? What do I love about it? And how do I show those things that I love to them in a new or a accessible way.
Right.
Because I'm always looking at that. How do I bring? I'm obsessed with like this idea of when you're opening one of my books, I try to be like, hey, come with me.
Yes.
I try to. Page ones are very important to me because I don't know. It always weirds me out when I read a comic and this page 1 feels like page 40 or something. It's like, no, it's got to feel like an introduction to this world, this story in some way or form. And so I know sometimes it's funny. It's like I start a lot of my comics in very similar ways. So I always try to like every once in a while break it. But yeah, it's a lot of work. But I think it's the same thing about yourself. It's like, you know, what do you like about it? And then how do you tell? It's like we were talking before, and you and I both had bad experiences with this, but it's like, you know, taking our friends to the movies and being like, the movie's gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
it is that though. It's like, I think it's about pitching all the time. Where I think I talked before with you, where I'm like, yeah, you and I talked on the phone about this maybe a month or so ago, where I was like, you have to slow yourself down and imagine you were just telling your friend, like you're like telling your friend a story.
Yes.
Right. And that's my thing with pitching. When people are talking about pitching, I'm like, if you need to have your quick, you know, high concept
elevator pitch,
elevator pitch, that's fine. You should have that. You should definitely have that in your head. But at the end of the day, if you cannot sit next to your friend in a bar or anywhere and just casually tell your friend the idea, then you don't have it.
Yes.
You don't have it. And I think that's something with a lot of comics where it's like, just sit your friend down and just tell your friend the idea. And I feel that way about the reader, where it's like, I am just trying to sit down and tell you a story. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I think about this all the time. Just tell me a story. Tell me a story. And I was watching Godfather the other night, and it's fascinating to me that Godfather opens with the dude telling a story.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
2 people sit on a couch telling you a story. And so there's something about that brings the reader in. And so I always think about this, like telling people a story. So ultimately, here's the thing. Let's say you have read every issue of X-Men ever, right? And you want to sit down with your friend and get them into X-Men, right? Where do you start? How do you explain it? How do you start telling your friend? And that's how you take something that is this humongous thing that you love and you make it personal and relatable. Is you have to basically think about yourself. One of the things I think with a lot whenever I'm having these meetings with other creators, we're talking about big stories, you have to slow down and think about those pieces. Yeah. You know, like just for a moment, slow down all the stuff and just think of it like that. And so that's always my advice for people when they're pitching comics, think about ideas, is can you just sit there and just tell your friend about it? Like, forget everything else. And that's the thing about like Birthright. Birthright, the reason that Skybound ended up doing Birthright, I always felt Birthright was really hard to pitch. And I struggled pitching it to people. And then me and Sean Mackless were walking around WonderCon, looking through the bins, like just literally looking through bins, looking at comic books. And he was like, "What's this book about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's hard to pitch." He's like, "Oh, it's me." And so I wasn't pitching it because we were friends by that point, you know. And I was like, "Well, here's the idea," and I just straight up pitched him. But I didn't pitch him. I was telling my friend.
No, you were just telling him a story.
Telling him a story. And next thing I knew, he's like, "Hey, we'll do all 50 issues." You know, so it's like that's my advice. If you can't do that, then you don't have it yet. And I think it also unlocks. So that's my advice for pitching sometimes, but also that's my thing of like unlocking. Can you make this accessible?
Yeah.
Regardless if it's a big story or a little story.
Right.
You know, is it something new or old? Can you tell your friend? That's it. Yeah.
Charzy, question for Josh. Good thing. What do you think the Flash costume is made of, and how does the Flash ring work in your mind?
So there is actually a diagram in like an old. I think it's in Secret Files. There's a diagram breaking it down, and then there is there's a diagram, and I think there's some stuff back in like the actual Silver Age where they really explained it. What is it made of is fascinating, because I'm like, that's my answer is like unstable molecules, but I'm like,
but that ain't DC.
That ain't it. I mean, now it's made of the Speed Force at this point. I mean, that's really what it is now. But
the Speed Force can conjure suits now. Yeah. So
yeah, it's funny. Deanna and I one time we were at lunch, and I remember this. We were walking into the building, and I was like, "What is something I'm not doing? You want me to do in the book?" And I mean, like, what is Like, what am I missing? Am I missing something? And you know, I don't mind asking those questions and then, you know, getting answers, good or bad. You know, it's interesting. It's always interesting to get different people's take, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I wish you showed the ring. I wish you would show the ring, because I think the ring is an iconic thing. It's a moment. It's specific to him. I wish you would show it. And I was like,
done.
Next issue, I got you. You know, I'll do it. You know, and then we were talking about Rafa Sandoval earlier. Rafa did it. Like, Rafa did it the next issue or something like that. I had a whole sequence of the ring and stuff. But yeah, I don't know what it's actually made.
Yeah, all I think of when I think of the ring is that moment, and it's a book that we literally just talked about it for like 3 hours on the show, and but I have to give it its flowers when it comes up. It's Dark Knight Strikes Again, where Barry gets the ring, and it says and I remember the dialogue perfect. Like, I remember all of that book, like every word written. I'm like, it's in my head. But it's the ring is on his finger before you even blink. You know, his costume comes out, like it comes in contact with air. Don't ask me how it works. Ask Barry Allen, the Flash.
Yeah, that's good. Like, we'll have to do. I haven't watched that video that you guys made yet. I was curious about it. It kept popping up, and I haven't watched it yet. You and I will talk about it later. It was very successful. I'm very happy with it. Yes, I will say this: if somebody has never read it before, they should watch your video, because I'll watch it too. But I actually have the black and white of that book, and that black and white of that book is fascinating. Like,
I agree.
Thing. Yeah.
I don't have it, but I was like, I wonder what it looks like, and I've looked at pages. I put them up on the show a little bit, where I was like, this is an example of what the book was. And it is fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, next question.
Yeah. For the record, I think Dark Knight Strikes Again would make a killer animated movie.
I need to reread it. I have not read it in many years. many moons. Yes, I have not read it. I need to, though.
There are a lot of wrestling questions. Raidu says, hey, happy Friday. Big fan of you both. Thanks for what you do. If you could pick a character from either Marvel or Indie to bring into DC mainline, who would you pick?
We talked about this before. I think we got this question. It was Dr. Doom.
Yes.
Dr. Doom. It was Dr. Doom and Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Is a DC character.
Right? Yeah, because who would
look at him.
Yeah. So who would Dr. Doom obsess over? Like, who would be his villains or his heroes? I think it'd be Superman, right?
Like Superman. I mean, that was my thing too. Well, I first was Superman, and then I was like Lex Luthor. But then I was like, who would? Because then you're like, oh, there's a family dynamic, and then I was like, oh, you know. But I just feel like, I feel like it would have to be Superman. Like, I think. Yeah, because I think the way you do that is that he had been obsessed with. I think the way you would do it is that he was somebody who was obsessed with space and obsessed with the idea that there were other planets out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, I know there's a planet out there. And in the process of trying to go on a shuttle, he either tried to get Clark's shuttle, or was on his way to Krypton when Krypton blew up.
Yep.
And then he got bathed in freaking something or whatever. Or because that's the thing. I guess Dr. Doom is so fascinating because I like the version of Dr. Doom that like didn't go. You know, He did not go.
It's a machine that blows up in his face. Yeah,
he's in college and he's trying to contact his mom in hell.
Yep.
I'm always surprised they didn't do a what if where it was like he realized his mom was in heaven. Yeah. Because how different is that character with that? Let me tell you.
Love that. Yeah.
I talk about this with Wade every once in a while that like
Father Doom.
Well, yeah, Father Doom. One of my favorite comics ever is Dr. Doom making a suit of armor out of his mom's skin.
Oh my god. No, it's his ex-lover's skin.
Is that what his ex-lover? I thought it was his mom.
No, it's his girl. It's okay. So like, yeah, he wants to go to hell.
Yeah, he goes to hell.
Oh, it's him he tracks down. He tracks down like the one woman he loves.
Oh, okay.
And like, because they broke up or whatever, and so he
broke his heart.
Wade broke his heart, and then he tracks her down. He reconvinces her to fall in love with him, and then kills her.
And kills her. You're right. Yes.
I only remember that because we just talked about it recently. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to be
no, it's okay.
Will actually guy, but
it's me. I'm not gonna be weird. What were we talking about? Yeah, Daredevil. So yeah, all right. Next question.
Yes, next question. Let's see. In the Green Arrow book, the goal was to bring the family together. So is George coming? I need closure on what happened to this dog. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Mikhail Mick.
Yeah. So I was looking at that and I was like, damn it. I have to find after I was thinking about this recently and I was like, God damn it. Because here's the problem that I sort of picked up on really early on. So me and Sean, I basically sat down and I started making like a list of all the characters. And even once I made the list of the characters, I realized I was leaving people off. And I was like, I remember when Eddie Friars, but it was like, what about Eddie Friars and stuff? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't win with this one. I was like, I thought I had everybody and I didn't. And then I was like, well, crap, now I got to find a place for Eddie Friars. And then it was like, I got to find a place for this. And then it was like this character. And then I was like, damn it. And I remember talking to Sean about it a bit. And he had actually drawn the cover. He had already drawn it for issue 1. It was a wraparound.
Yeah.
And I stopped him before he inked it. And I was like, we got to put Jade on here. And I was like, I think we need to put Jade on here. So I feel like I've been screwed on Green Arrow 2-1 because I was like, then we're good. We got everybody. And it's not what happened. And so, listen, not everything is gonna make it. Like, I tried. There's characters that I was like, oh, this character. Like, I didn't even have room for. I wanted to find a place for Shadow, and I couldn't find a place for Shadow.
Shadow would be cool.
Oh man. Yeah, I thought about it all. I mean, the dog thing is really funny. There are some elements I don't know how to put this. There are some elements from the previous books we haven't got to yet. I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Judah Gregory says, has there ever been a time you had to change something you planned for a book that you had to change because of some event that happened in the world?
In the real world? Or do you mean?
I assume in the real world, but he could be referring to an event. But I think when he says the world, that might be the real world. Like,
no. I mean, I've had editorial changes. And I've had moments where I had changed editors, and then it was like, well, a new editor came on, and then it was a conversation, and then it was like having to repitch it, and then being like, well, here's what I'm doing, and then getting notes, and then sometimes it's like, this is a good note, I'm gonna do that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. I haven't had like a real world event that I was like, I have to quickly change this. There have been moments where like a book has come out that I was like, damn, this is too close. That has happened. Like, books have come out that I'm like, shit, they're doing something very similar to what I was planning on doing. I'm going to change up because of that.
Yeah.
But never because anything that was like a real world event. I mean, the pandemic made me, I had a creator-owned book. I had 2 that I was working on, and I decided not to do them because of the pandemic, because one of them was too close to what was actually going on. Like,
there's no way anyone's going to want to read about a pandemic. Like,
somebody asked me a question about this like 2 weeks ago. They're like, what happened to this book? And I was like, explaining the book to them. And I was like, I couldn't do it because it's basically what happened. It's basically what happened during the pandemic. And I was explaining to them, and they were like, oh yeah, you're right. That is exactly what happened. And I was like, yeah. So, it's not I mean, I kind of regret, there was another book I was working on, and I kind of regret putting it on hold because I was like, oh, I think this is too bleak. And then I remember, I told this story before. I was like, oh, I'm working on this book. I think it's too bleak. And I was like, I'm not going to do it because the pandemic had just kicked off. I'm not going to do it. I was like, I'll put this on hold. And then James sent me the script for Nice House on the Lake.
Oh.
And I remember reading it and being like, I was wrong. Like, I kept going because I was like, oh, James is doing, it wasn't the same, it was not like what James was doing at all. But definitely James was like, did not feel deterred on like, I'm gonna do some dark stories. Like, he didn't at all. So I kind of regret that, but that's the closest I guess I can come.
Yeah. Couple of quick ones here. Crow says, does Flatline have a last name?
I think we had it in the book. I don't think we've ever outright said it though. I think we might have had it in the book. We've just never outright said it. I mean, I think that's something to actually ask Gleb, realistically, because Gleb is the one who named her. Because Gleb, you know, she's from Russia, and so is Gleb. And so when we were creating her, Gleb and I were talking, and I don't remember if he asked. He was like, "Can she be Russian?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, she can be Russian." That totally makes sense. And then, but then I was like, "Well, I need you to give me Russian information." And then I was like, what is her name? He told me the name, and that. So I would almost say Gleb is probably the person to ask about that.
Yeah. Heroic Hideaway, will Nailbiter hardcovers be reprinted?
Probably not. That has come up a bunch. I would say once we got the compendium out, I feel like the compendium took its place. Here's what I will say to you. If you are somebody who wants the Nailbiter hardcovers, it depends which one you want. Mike and I will probably release like a limited number at some point in the future. We probably should have done it already. There's just been some stuff that I have to like finish up any kind of fulfillment I have on previous stuff that has to happen. But then I think we'll probably do a very limited, like you can get it directly from us, like big cartel. Here it is. Mike is moving back to Portland. Henderson is. So once he's back in Portland, that's not a secret. He posted on Instagram. I had to think about that for a minute. I'm like, is that a secret? And I'm like, no.
Do I know that? Yeah.
Posted on Instagram he was moving back. I'm like, all right, cool, we're good. So he's coming back here. I think once he's here, we might do a thing where we will probably release some like signed editions, and we might do where it's like you can get 1, 2, and 3, and then get a bundle of all 3 of them. That will probably happen this year, potentially. That is going to be the only way to get them. So I guess kind of keep a lookout on the newsletter for the moment we announce that, and watch us online, because we know those are really in demand. We are aware.
Good.
Those hardcovers are expensive to produce. They're very expensive to produce. So our focus right now is selling the compendium, and then I think we will eventually reevaluate if we're going to reprint them. But for right now, it's going to be a while before we reprint them, and I think our focus is more on selling the compendium that just came out this last October.
Dustin, will there be a trade for Rogues?
Do they never release it in paperback?
No.
Oh, interesting. I don't know then. I can ask.
Yeah.
I'll ask. I don't know. I think that
just get the hardcover. But I know he actually said he can't read hardcovers, but he has about 5% of normal vision, so he needs to like.
I get it. Yeah, a lot of the Black Label stuff, I'm not sure if they ever release that stuff in softcover. I don't know. I'd have to look. I know there is no plan right now. Like, I know that much because I'm obsessed with the collections and stuff. I know there's no plan for that right now.
Yeah. Any chance that you and Tom Riley continuing on more Joe stuff? Asks Nathan Chaffin.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. There's Jay Sage. Would you like to write the Amalgam version of Oliver Queen?
Oh, the one that I pitched?
No, I guess but there apparently there is an actual Oliver Queen in the Amalgam universe.
No.
Goliath?
I think there was. Goliath? Oh, that's right, because he was merged with that's a weird thing, right? Because he was merged with Hawkeye, but the version of Hawkeye who was Goliath. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
But he said, but this guy says, Jay Sage says, would you like to write the Green Arrow Iron Fist Amalgam? I guess that's the one we talked about.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine was the Nova one.
The Nova
one. Yeah, I mean, why not? It'd be fun. I think writing any Amalgam stuff would be fun. I almost feel like now, it's funny when you guys were in that podcast about Amalgam, I actually think the fun about Amalgam now would be to re-break it. Like, to completely get in there and be like, how do we do this completely different?
Yeah,
like
new ones. Yeah, because you wouldn't do Wolverine Batman again.
No, but I mean that's a whole other video.
Yeah, that. Oh no, you're like,
right, let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then we'll save these for the next time.
I know, because there's a lot of these, but
I know I didn't realize that we were done, and I'm like, oh my god, we did that. That's a whole. I wouldn't mind doing a live show where we're like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah,
you just like moderate it, just make it happen. Yeah.
Josh, you have to Stupid Sandwich. You have to write the foreword for Justice League versus Suicide Squad trade paperback and tell the story to the fans so they can see your dedication to the craft. Apparently, you told a great story about Justice League versus Suicide Squad.
Maybe that was about the story about how. Well, that was when we were on. So I remember this when we were on that live one. I was talking about how I do not remember writing issue 4. I think
where everyone's in the where you put everybody in the same.
It's either 4 or 3. I don't remember writing it because one is a setup, 2 is the fight, 3 is them all in prison, 4 is this is where I start getting like, what happened in this thing? I love Justice League Suicide Squad. I really love it. I'm very happy with it. I learned a lot from it. I think it is crazy that there is a page in issue 5 where it is 37 characters on a 2-page spread. That was the first time. I think my record for having this many characters is 51 that Daniel did in Dark Crisis.
That's the Dark Crisis, I
think that's the most like recognizable characters that he did. I remember at this time I told you I was like, it should be 52. We should put an Adam in there somewhere. Just a tiny. I was like, he's on somebody's shoulder. I mean, I think that like that book, I learned a lot from it, so I wouldn't mind writing something about that in the future because I do feel like that book was that's when I would love to like get into it and really talk about the process of it, because it was like, even when we decided who the characters were going to be and that other team, that changed a lot. And I remember at one point knowing exactly who the team was, and it wasn't that team, and then it was something else. And I remember at one point really wanting Lobo, to bring everything back to Lobo, because remember I brought Lobo back. We brought him back. And so I was like, I really want Lobo in this book. I really want Lobo in this. This is how we're going to do it. And being told no. So on a Wednesday, I was told no. I was in the offices. So I was in the office on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I left on Wednesday and they said no. I was like, all right. Well, that's a bummer. The whole way home, I'm like, man, this sucks. It should be Lobo.
Yeah.
Friday, I get a text. Hey, it's Lobo. You got Lobo. Lobo.
Yay.
And I was like, hell yes. And so... and then all this stuff with Lobo, it's funny in that I have a lot of funny, nerdy things. Like now that I'm thinking about it, there's all kinds of weird, nerdy stuff that I can tell you about that book. I'm trying to, I think it's 3 is the one that I don't really remember really well writing. Because that issue where there's 37 characters in that 1-2-page spread, I actually do remember writing that one. That issue I do remember writing. Yeah. So yeah, it all depends. I think it must be 5 that I don't remember writing. It must be 5. The 6-part book. Yeah, what a crazy thing. It was supposed to be 5, then it was 4. That's a whole thing.
Yeah. Kieran Dale, what obscure character do you wish you could put in a book? Or is that too close to it, where it's like, well, I'm gonna do that, and
yeah, I mean, like I'm always dropping. It's like I put Space Cabbie and
you put Space Cabbie in there. Hardcore Station. It's not a character, but still.
Yeah, we should stop here because otherwise we're gonna be doing this all day.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, no, there's like 10 more, so I'm like, no.
Oh my god, save them for next time. I think
that's a good idea. We'll hang on to it, you know.
Yeah. No, I always try to drop random characters in there. So it's funny, like that issue of Superman, I was kind of struggling with it. This always happens. I'm kind of struggling. I don't know. And then something unlocks. And with that one, it was like, I don't know, I'm figuring this out. And then all of a sudden I was like, Space Cabbie's in this issue. And then it was like I knew everything I needed to know. And then I was over Hardcore Station. Nobody knows what that is but me.
Right. You and Jim Starlin. And
Steve Orlando.
Right. Orlando was like, hey, I have one more question for you. And it's one I know you haven't thought. You may not have thought about. So Deadpool versus Wolverine, or Deadpool and Wolverine, is coming out on July 26th.
Yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con starts on July 25th.
I've had this conversation with a bunch of creators. I have no idea.
Okay. I was going to say, when the hell are you going to see Deadpool and Wolverine?
I might go. The problem is that I would imagine if there is a good theater in San Diego, the one that
there is,
right?
Yep. It's AMC.
I bet it's already sold out.
It certainly is.
Yeah, there you go. I have no idea. Yeah. This came up. A lot of us were talking about this. I happened to be in LA when the tickets went on sale. I just happened to be there.
So you were like, no,
with people. No, we were talking about all of us are like, how are we gonna make it to this day? I'm like, okay, here's what I could do. I've debated because I don't go to conventions on Sundays anymore.
Yeah, so, no, I know.
Right? Yeah, I have a debate of like, do I literally land and then just go to the movies?
Yeah.
No, my wife would kill me. That's not happening. So it's like, do I sneak off? Here's the trick. Actually, it's kind of funny right now.
Yeah.
My schedule is not set for the convention. I, in theory, could just wake up one day and go, all right, everybody, I'll see you guys later. And just go to the movies in the morning.
Let me tell you something. I'm going on, because I'm also going to be at San Diego.
Yeah, I know you're going, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to see Deadpool and Wolverine on Friday morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And I have one extra ticket.
Save it for me. I will figure this out. I will figure this out. I will figure this out. I will figure it out because
yes.
Yeah. I will let you know what time. Well, don't tell me what time. But tell me later. Text me. Don't put it in the video.
Yeah. But folks, All Stars double length episode. Holy crap!
That's not a lot. You and I had talked in a bit, but I feel there was a lot to talk about, and there's shit we could talk about after this.
And there's so much more. I know. We can't. But folks,
I got people messaging me.
I know.
About something like, get back to work.
Yeah, what are you doing, man? Who is this guy? Yeah. Stop. He made fun of my comic book. But folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time with another episode. Make sure to subscribe and check out more Josh's stuff. Oh crap! By the time this drops, which will be the week of the 10th.
Yeah.
They should be keeping an eye out for all kinds of books.
Reading. Keep reading.
Superman, Green Arrow,
Batman and Robin. Duke. The trade for Duke is out, and the trade for Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We did it.
So long, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.